on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering which ratings and traits matter for the tight end position within Madden 24. We have a couple of good examples here to go off of today. The primary example being Trey Knox, a tight end that I recently drafted with the Rams and have built up to be an 85 overall superstar. Super young player, super athletic, a really good tight end all around. The first thing that's worth starting off this video by saying is how to think about the tight end position, in my personal opinion. And that is to think of this as a combination of a wide receiver and an offensive lineman, where the skills are half as important for each of those sets of positions. So you need to have the run blocking skill set of the offensive line. You need to have the receiving skill set of the receiver positions, but you don't have to be as good at either of them to be successful and effective at this position. In fact, very often you can have success with lower overall players at this position, players that don't necessarily meet the criteria that we have set for receivers or offensive linemen. As an example, you'll find a lot of tight ends that are low 80s to mid 80s speed that are very effective, whereas that does not meet what we've set for receivers at that 90 speed threshold, though I do have a 90 speed tight end. And with the offensive line side of things, we've set thresholds at 80s in terms of their blocking capabilities and those types of things, and that's not necessarily as important either. You can get away with something in the 70s for the blocking statistics for a lot of tight ends. It's really hard to find the prototypical super fast tight end at this position, so you're going to have a variety of different skill sets at this position that do different things, and you can see that with my roster here, having a 90 speed tight end, but then having an 86 speed, an 80 speed, and a 78 speed tight end, and I find value in every single one of these players and the capabilities that they bring to the table. So this is an intricate position. It is one that is definitely worth discussing the various intricacies that go into it. So let's talk about what is first and foremost most important for this position. Well, the thing that is going to be the most powerful to have at this position is going to be athleticism. The reason that it's going to be most powerful is because a lot of times these guys are covered by outside linebackers, inside linebackers, safeties, players that are not necessarily as athletic as cornerbacks. And so getting an athleticism advantage is going to result in a lot better production from this position, just from a receiving aspect of things. However, the other thing that is most important here is going to be a player's size. And you'll notice that with most of the tight ends that I have on my team, if not all of them, they're going to be 6'6", maybe 6'5", or taller. And the reason for that is when you get these players that are 6'7", 6'8", 6'6", they are going to be very effective at triggering catch animations and coming down with the football, even if their stats aren't that great. I always take examples like Craig Gentry and Jesse James that were like high 60s, low 70s overall players that would come down with anything I threw their way. And it was simply because they had such a big frame in comparison to the players that they were going up against. It allowed them to just get better animations, and it allowed them to have a better situation with the algorithm going on behind the screen. So you want to look for tall players at this position. There are a lot of tight ends out here that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and that's not necessarily something you want. 6'5" is what I would call like the minimum of what you want at tight end, but ideally you're looking for 6'6" and taller. As far as speed is concerned, if you do want your player to be a receiving threat, you're going to be looking for something into the mid 80s or better. So 85, 86 is very serviceable at the tight end position. In my personal opinion, that's going to be at the level of a lot of linebackers in the league, if not better than some of the linebackers in the league. You're going to need to make up for it if you have 80 speed or 78 speed or something like this. This is going to prevent you from getting open. So you have to make up for it with really good catching statistics or really good size, like Colby Parkinson, 6'7". That's going to allow them to be more effective with a player that is nearby them, whereas somebody like Trey Knox is just going to get open because of his 90 speed. Typically, you would love to have a tight end that's like Trey Knox that has 90 speed, 90 agility, 90 acceleration, 90 change of direction. That's going to be a fantastic tight end. That's going to be very hard to come by, though. A lot of tight ends you're going to see are going to have worse agility and change of direction. So Colston Loveland, for example, comes in with pretty solid speed and acceleration to start off with, but his agility is 78, his change of direction is 81. You'll notice that a lot of times this prevents them from breaking towards the football, from allowing you to user control them in the ways that you want. It just hurts some of their ability to, again, be agile, change direction, break in a certain direction. It's going to prevent you from getting catches sometimes. It's going to prevent you from getting onto blocks sometimes. So it can be troublesome at this position. So you're looking for something closer to 80 agility, something closer to 80 change of direction. If you can get it, it's hard to come by, but if you can get it, that's something you want. So again, good speed, acceleration, agility, change of direction is going to set you up for a lot. But beyond that, we also have to talk about the various capabilities and responsibilities of the tight end position. The tight end can be one of the most effective weapons on the field because of the mismatches that they can create, not only with their size, but with, like I said, sometimes their athleticism and those types of things. A lot of times these guys are relied on to be secure catchers for the quarterback, somebody that they can look to in a tough situation, maybe a third and short, a third and medium. They just need to pick up 5 yards. They know they can dump it to this guy over the middle and they're going to come down with the ball. So this is pretty much always going to be a player that you want to look for to have sure hands. And by that, I mean 80 at a minimum in all of their catching categories. And that would be catching, catch in traffic, and spec catch. You can see here, though, that Trey Knox, as an example, has very good catch in traffic, but he has super low spec catch. It's something of a trade-off there that'll happen sometimes with tight ends. He is very good at coming down with the football, but he's not going to go up there and make the crazy acrobatic catches that you might want somebody to be able to make, especially if they're 6'7" or 6'6" and a superstar. So that is one negative that comes along with this player, but you want 80s in all of their catching categories as kind of a baseline. Anything above that is going to be bonus, of course. Then you want to look at their route running capability. You want these players to be able to get open. What's going to matter the most for these positions are short route, medium route, and release. Release probably being the most important for this position because a lot of times your tight ends will get caught on defensive linemen, linebackers, generally making them slower off the line of scrimmage because there's more traffic in there near the line of scrimmage, near the offensive line. So your tight ends need to have good release in order to be able to get through all of that traffic and actually get open and run their routes. So focus on their release. 80 plus is going to be fantastic. If you have it in the mid to high 70s, that's going to be solid, but you want it to be 80 plus. You want this to be as good as a receiver's release capabilities. As far as route running is concerned, though, number one, we really don't care about deep route running. Not too often your tight end's going to be running a complex deep route. Not too often they're going to be running a deep route in general. If they are, you're probably only throwing it to them if they're wide open regardless. So deep route running, not really important for the tight end position unless that's something that's specifically schemed into your offense. Short and medium routes are exactly what a tight end is meant to do. This is going to be the beef of what they're trying to do at that position and in your offense, and this is where you're going to be throwing them the ball. So you want them to be able to get open on drag routes, quick outs, hitches, curls, crossing routes, all that type of stuff. Those flag and post routes sometimes. So that's going to mostly be your short and medium range. Again, you want this to be 80 plus in those categories, similar to a receiver. This doesn't have to be as good. You can get away with 75 plus short route, 75 plus medium route, but their routes might suffer from time to time. Again, though, you have to think about what they're going up against. They're not going up against as good of coverage players, so it's not going to be as imperative that these guys have 80 plus in those categories. And then we got to talk about the blocking responsibilities of these players. Tight ends are very much responsible for blocking defensive players, and they need to be able to do so. So again, their size is going to help them at 6'6", 6'7", 6'5", 250-ish pounds for most of these players. They're going to be set up to match any defensive lineman, except for maybe interior guys, heavier guys. They're going to be set to match up against the ends. They're going to be set to match up against linebackers, so they're not going to be at a disadvantage. They're nothing to worry about, but something to be concerned with is that sometimes tight ends will come in with low strength, A lot of defensive ends, a lot of linebackers are going to come in with close to, if not 80 plus strength, and this can put your tight ends at a disadvantage, so you want to be aware of that strength differential. Likewise, you want to be aware of their run blocking capabilities. The ratings here that I would say matter more than anything are just straight up run blocking, maybe a little bit their run block finesse or run block power, depending on what you mainly do with your running plays within the game, but then impact blocking and lead blocking. The reason that I say those specifically, and they don't really show up here on the first page, you have to scroll down to the second page of a player card to see them. The reason I say those is because these are not players that are always going to have somebody lined up right in front of them, nor are they going to be tasked with always blocking somebody that is lined up right in front of them on the line of scrimmage. A lot of times these guys are going to have to get up to a linebacker. A lot of times they're going to have to track a defensive player to be able to block them. They're going to have to move to get onto a block. And so it's important for them to be able to do so. That's why I say like lead block, which I say is important for guards and fullbacks who have to do a lot of moving and tracking of defenders to get onto their block, is going to be important. The awareness of this player is going to be important. However, it's worth noting that you're looking for 70 run blocking, not even close to what you're looking for in an offensive lineman. 70 run blocking or better is going to be serviceable. The higher the better, of course. Then you're going to want to look for close to 70s, if not 65 plus in their run block power, run block finesse. As far as their lead block and impact blocking, I'm looking for 75 plus, preferably 80 plus in those categories because I value those as the most important. Impact blocking, if you're running a stretch play or some type of play behind your tight end, you want them to get a push. You don't want them to get pushed into the backfield. Think about it. Run a stretch play in your head right now. What happens if the tight end gets pushed back off the line of scrimmage? It blows up your stretch play. More often than not, it's going to cause you to have to move as a running back as opposed to being able to get to the edge. So you want these guys to be able to get that impact at the line of scrimmage if required. Lead blocking, likewise, you want them to be able to actually get onto a block if there is not somebody immediately in front of them to be able to block. Heck, even sometimes these guys are lined up out in the slot and things like that. You want them to be able to then track down a linebacker, a defensive back, whatever it might be, and block that player to help you out in the run game. One set of ratings that is going to be an inflation to a tight end's overall is going to be pass blocking ratings. A lot of times, a tight end might appear as a higher overall player because they have pass blocking capabilities. That does not matter in Madden 24 or in any Madden that I've ever been aware of because they're going to be so low compared to pass rushing players that you're not going to be able to hold up in a one-on-one block situation no matter what anyway. It's not something you should expect your tight ends to be able to do. Sometimes you keep them in to help in the pass blocking scheme, but more often than not, they're going out on a route anyway. More often than not, you don't count on them to manage a one-on-one block. No NFL team does. Nobody in their right mind should. So forget pass blocking, forget pass block power, forget pass block finesse. And in fact, take a look at where they stand because if they're too high, they're probably overinflating your tight end's ratings. As we can see here, we have 55 pass block power, 62 pass block finesse, 56 pass block. So those are relatively low. I know they're not hyperinflating my tight ends ratings, but if I came in with 70s in those categories, I'd know that my tight ends overall is actually a little bit lower because those are hyperinflating the overall rating of the player. Not something that you should ever worry about in my personal opinion. And I think I mentioned this when we were talking about run blocking, but because of their need to move around and be able to block players, awareness is going to matter quite a bit at this position. Awareness is going to affect their ability to get onto the right assignment, get the correct block, and oftentimes it even affects their ability to run routes, be aware of the ball coming at them, and catch the football. So don't underestimate how much awareness can impact this position. Now, besides that, what else could possibly matter for this position? Well, there's trucking, stiff arm, carrying, those types of things. Not ever going to be that important. I mean, it is nice to have a really high-end tight end that can get a nice stiff arm or a really high-end tight end that can truck guys over. it's not something that's going to be that important to you. I wouldn't rely on your tight end to be that guy. Just rely on your tight end to be the one that's a secure guy that can catch the ball in the necessary scenarios and the necessary parts of the field, come down with the football, and then get tackled. Maybe stiff arm a guy, maybe try to truck a guy, get another yard or two or something like that. But I would not rely on trucking, not rely on stiff arm. Carrying is going to be very important because you are getting the football to these players in very crucial positions, oftentimes in positions where they're set up to be hit sticked and things like that. So you don't want 70 carrying, which is what Trey Knox has. You want something closer to 80. You want something closer to what a running back has as far as their carrying is concerned. So just be aware of it. Trey Knox is not the type of player that I want to be taking a lot of hit sticks with because he only has 70 carrying. Beyond that, though, spin move, don't care. Juke move, maybe it's going to be hard to come by. I really don't care. Ball carrier vision, again, I don't really care. And then you have your typical injury, stamina, toughness. Stamina is the only one that I will particularly point you toward to actually pay attention to. Injury and toughness is something you should know with all of your players, but stamina specifically, tight ends are involved into head-on-head contact or pad-on-pad contact all the time, and so they wear down quicker. I liken tight ends to linebackers as far as my auto subs and those types of things, so you should consider your tight ends to be a position that can get worn down very quickly, and so you want good stamina on these players. If you get a really good tight end like Trey Knox, 90 speed, but he only has 86 stamina, he's going to be on and off the field, or he's going to be tired when he's on the field and therefore performing less whenever he's tired like that. So absolutely worth consideration. And finally, as far as traits are concerned, we're going to want to look at the traits that affect offensive linemen and receivers. So penalty tendency, these guys will get called for a lot of penalties if they have undisciplined on them. Something that is worthwhile for you guys to take a look at before you pick what tight end you guys are going to be going with. And then fights for extra yards, going to be important for these guys. You would like your tight ends, especially being a big body, to be able to reach for another yard or two. Then you want the plays ball in the air, aggressive tendency if you can get it. Again, these guys need to be able to go after the football, especially if you're throwing to them in crucial situations. You don't want them to be drifting behind defenders and allowing easy interceptions when they could be easily going for the football. And then high motor, good for every single player to have, but aggressive catch, possession catch, run after catch, the same stuff we talked about with receivers. These are going to trigger different animations for each one of these that a tight end or receiver is going to have. It's better to have them than not to have them, because this is going to open up the possibilities for this position, especially if you're going to rely on this position to actually catch the football for you. So that's all there is for tight ends. It is a little bit more intricate. There's a little bit more going on here with this position because of the various different responsibilities that they have, but hopefully you guys found the information in this video valuable. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. I would like to hear from you guys. What do you specifically like to do with a tight end in Madden 24 or whatever Madden you're playing? I generally like to go for a young, higher speed tight end and develop them into a possession or vertical threat tight end. What do you guys do with your tight ends? I would like to hear that down below. So as always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.